We only have 4 samples today, so we won't be here forever. Alright, so if you guys notice here where the curve seam, you have 2 pattern pieces. You have your straight grain on both pieces. And also notice your 1/2 inch seam allowance. Your directions. Cut 1 of these in fabric, and here also cut 1 in fabric. Because the curve here is so deep, we're going to need to slash the concave curve side. Okay, but first, since this is a curve, we're going to add a stay stitch because there's bias. We don't want it to grow. We don't want it to get larger. So we're going to do a stitch all the way around. Just a stay stitch at 1.5 inches. Well, 1.5 millimeters. No back stitch. Also, since this is the side where we're going to be slashing, you'll have the stay stitch there so that you won't slash past this point. So it's kind of like a little marker for you. It's 1/2 inch seam allowance, but we're sewing this a little less than 1/2 inch because we don't want to have to take the stitches out. So when we actually sew it together, we're going to actually use the 1/2 inch. This is a stay stitch. Bless you. Alright, the next stitch is going to be our regular stitch. So turn your sewing machine back to 2.5. And what we're going to do is slash this. So the more slashes you have, the better it'll move for you. Okay. I did a short little slash here for my notch because this is where I need to match up both pieces. Okay, so don't lose your notch point. And we're just slashing this up to, but not through, the stay stitch. Alright, so by slashing that allows this to grow and flatten out because we slashed it. So now it's going to fit around our curve. Alright. Alright, so this is going to fit here, matching up.
So what is this that we're doing?
This is the curve seam. So if you decide you want to design something that has a cutout, like if you had like a cutout here,
Okay.
then this is what you would use it for. And anything, actually you're going to use this also with your princess seam, because as you're sewing your princess seam, you'll notice one side of the curve is going to be deeper than the other, and you'll have to slash again, but we'll do that when we get into the jacket. So you will use this for that also. Alright, so you match up your notch first. So our notches are matched. Next, line up the end of your fabric with the end of the curve and just curve it all the way around. Now this has to reach all the way down to the end. If you notice here, it kind of seems like it stops a little bit short of that. So as long as your notch in the center is set, then you can move everything else around so that it fits. Okay. Now at some points it may seem like, oh, the curve is too long, or this is too deep, it's not fitting. So we slashed it so that we can actually fit it around the curve. So it's going to take a little bit of maneuvering and pinning and repinning until you get it exactly right. But you can't change your pattern. You can't change anything. It needs to stay exactly the same size. You just have to just fit it in there and make it work. Alright? And don't move your notch in the center, so that lets you know this is the center. So all of this fabric has to fit around this curve. And the same thing for the other side. Otherwise, one side's going to be longer than the other. So make sure your notch is in the center. And then you only have space between these 2 points to maneuver. And I think I got it. Now you can pin both sides all the way around. I'm just going to do one half and then I'll do the other side. Well, actually I'll just do one side. Alright. So as we begin to sew this, we're going to start sewing at the 1/2 inch. Okay, so that's going to be below our stay stitch line. This is a regular stitch, so we're stitching at a 1/2 inch with 2.5. That's the stitch width, back stitch. Alright, and your seam allowances need to stay even, so one side shouldn't be longer than the other. So I just did one side, and if you want you could do one side at a time, or you can do the entire curve, but in the end this is how it should match up. So you see how it matches here at the end. Okay, so this entire side fits up into the notch, okay, and the rest of it's going to fit also. Alright, so that's that one.